This week on the Gonez show, a longtime police detective caught stealing drugs, and there's no consequences. We're gonna have to talk about it. Plus, the fake landlord scam is back and people are being duped all across Toronto. Also, another example of a politician fleeing for the sun while his residents are literally dying from the cold. Also, in your voice, we check in and speak with residents who are living on the streets during this pandemic. And in Open and Honest, a conversation with an inspirational woman who is redefining what leadership looks like. There is so much to get to, so relax, I got you. The Gonez show starts right now. Hey BG Squad, thanks so much for joining us for another episode. And you know there's a bit of homework you gotta do, so do it right now. Click that notification bell, tap the subscribe button, vice versa. We don't care, just do it, and make sure to follow us on our social media. All right, it's time for news you can use. All right, I have a question to ask you. What should happen to an officer who breaks the rules?
They should get double the time.
Okay.
They should get charged the same as anybody else.
Interesting. Burns?
Double the time.
Double the time. All right. You at home, I want you to think about it for a second, because the reason I ask you this is because it was recently revealed that a longtime Toronto police detective has admitted to stealing drugs from Toronto police evidence lockers. Listen to this.
Everything starts with the drug dealing, the type of people who show up to deal in drugs.
This is Toronto Police homicide detective Paul Warden, a veteran of more than 3 decades with the force.
So again, his name is Detective Paul Warden, and police say, and I quote, he unlawfully took quantities of opioids for personal use due to addiction to prescription painkillers. Now I can tell you at this moment that Paul Warden has decided to retire from the force, which means he gets to keep his pension. But I can also tell you this, that he's not really facing any real consequences in the form of like criminal charges. And the reason why Toronto police say this, take a look at your screen, is because, and I quote, he proactively disclosed and cooperated with the investigation, including disclosure of his addiction to painkillers. And the reality is that many of us can understand the need for compassion when it comes to addiction. It's something so many people face in our society. But the other big question is this: what if he wasn't an officer?
Exactly.
Would a regular person be getting the same treatment? Well, some people were asked that question. Here's what they had to say.
The compassion and the leniency that's being afforded Detective Warden is the same compassion and leniency that should be afforded all members of the public. The issue isn't that Detective Warden should be treated more harshly, but that the same standard should apply to everyone.
In the meantime, though, Toronto Police, they've called in the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police, to investigate this matter, because some of the drugs that Warden stole, they may have been part of an ongoing criminal investigation. What does that mean? Well, those investigations may now be at risk. So while you ponder that first question that I ask you, I also want to ask you this. Should this former police detective be punished? Let us know right now in the comment section. And listen, as you're dropping those comments in the comment section, because we like it when you drop it, this year also marks a very special anniversary. So, did you know? It was 25 years ago that Canada officially adopted this month, February, as Black History Month. And I'm not sure if you're aware who introduced that bill, but it is one trailblazer by the name of Miss Jean Augustine. And in fact, a little Black history for you. Miss Jean was actually Canada's first Black woman who was elected to the House of Commons back in 1993. That wasn't that long ago. So let's give her a round of applause, because she is an inspiration and she continues to trailblaze and push the envelope further. And if you want to recognize what she's done for us, I'm pretty sure she would love to see us all talk and learn about Black History Month, not just in February, but all year long. Right? Okay, gotta ask you another question. Have you ever been scammed before? Because if you're on the market looking for an apartment, we want to warn you about something that's happening in Toronto. So listen up, because hopeful tenants are getting scammed out of thousands of dollars. So here's what's happening. Look at your screen. Basically, Toronto police are saying that some criminals are trying to rent out apartments that they don't even own. And it's called the fake landlord scam. And listen, we have your backs because we've done some research and some investigating, and we're gonna make sure that this does not happen to you. So let's tell you how this is all unfolding, because essentially what people are doing is that they're going on Airbnb and sites like that looking for an apartment, they rent it out, and then they're pretending to be the landlord of that unit. Yeah, take that in for a second. No, it's shady business. These people are wearing shady boots all over the place.
The scammers don't stop developing. They don't stop progressing.
It's on and on. You have to keep looking like where's the next one coming?
Wow, that hits close.
So let me tell you how this shady fake landlord scam happens. Basically, these scammers, they list these apartments on websites like Kijiji, for example. And then these fake landlords, they make up excuses as to why these potential renters can't come and see the unit in person. Then after, what you should definitely look out for is if they're listing these apartments dirt cheap. That's a huge red flag. The other thing is that when you're looking for your rental agreement, all they do is send out a basic one, and the biggest one is that they pressure potential tenants to e-transfer the funds immediately. And the reason why that's a big one is because once that e-transfer is sent, gone like a ghost. Like they were never there. No, seriously. And listen, some people have lost as much as $2,500. Listen to this. It's crazy.
How many people do you think this has happened to?
At least 5. 5 of which I know of.
I never thought that would happen to me. And I didn't think people would be shady enough to do that to somebody.
God bless her soul. Because yes, the world is good. And we love to highlight the good in this world. But there's also some bad, right? The devil is a liar. Am I right? You guys don't believe the devil is a liar? But here's what we want to make sure that you know about, okay? Is that if you are going to rent an apartment, especially during COVID, please make sure to try to meet the landlord in person or via FaceTime, Skype, or Zoom, for example. Try to tour the unit or apartment if you can. Type the address in Google and make sure it's not on Airbnb. These are literally some tips that experts are saying that can help you avoid being scammed. So BG Squad, I don't want to step into your business too much, but if you've ever been scammed before, let us know, and let us know what happened to you as well. Oh my goodness, have you guys seen what happened in Texas over the course of the last week? It's crazy, it's wild, and I'm not just talking about the brutal winter storm, I'm also talking about the lack of political leadership. Yeah, we're gonna step into this, okay? But let's also talk about this blast of winter storm because it left millions of people without electricity, and it also left some people dead too. Check this out, because according to reports, at least 40 people have died, some while trying just to keep warm. And it's crazy and it's sad. It's absolutely sad. And it wasn't just the electricity that was affected, but also drinking water. Listen to this, because nearly a third of the state's population, which is approximately like 7 million people, they were ordered to boil their tap water in order to drink it. And that's if they were even fortunate enough or blessed enough to still have electricity.
I spoke with somebody in Texas today. And
what did they say?
Well, they said that just because their proximity is close to a hospital, they were allowed to, their water was kept on, but they have family that was further away from a hospital, so their water's been off for like 3 days. Wow. It's crazy.
It's crazy in like a first world country. And you know what? While this was all happening, while this was all going on, affecting millions of people, you know what Texas Senator Ted Cruz was doing? On plane, heading for the sun for vitamin D. No, check it out. Look at your screen. Oh yes, Twitter was on the case and he got caught. And this is what he initially had to say when he got caught and landed in Mexico. Listen to this.
We had no heat and no power. And yesterday my daughters asked if they could take a trip with some friends. And Heidi and I agreed, so I flew down with them last night, dropped them off here, and now I'm headed back to Texas.
Sir, stop. No, stop. Stop. You tried it and I just don't have the energy today. I haven't had it all week. In fact, by the time Ted Cruz finally arrived back in Texas, no, the man tried to do a switch up, but it's fine. People were calling for him to resign, and he had this to say.
I don't like this being used as a distraction from the real issues.
But it wouldn't be a distraction if you'd stayed here and said these same things, right? And gotten out in the streets.
I agree. The angry haters screaming resign, I think that is a sad sign of where we are.
Sir. Those aren't haters calling you out. You know what
the people that
they are?
elected you.
They're the people that elected you. They are your citizens who have no heat and no water to drink. So, you know what? Run it. Excuse me. You're doing too much. No, sir, you're gonna need to take several seats, right?
Several seats.
Okay. And because we don't have the energy to watch you, that's your news you can use for the week. On this week's Your Voice, we wanted to check in with people in our society who are often voiceless. So many of us are so fortunate to have a roof over our heads, heat to keep us warm, and a meal to keep us full. But did you know that on any given night, there are more than 10,000 people experiencing homelessness in Toronto alone? So now, it's time we heard their voice. Are you okay if we show your face on camera?
Yeah.
And your first name again there is?
Dominico.
Dominico. You know, one of the reasons why we're doing this interview is because we're trying to highlight the experiences of some of our most vulnerable in society. What's your story?
My story?
Yeah.
My family put me out here, my two older sisters. They showed up with a goon squad of police saying I was an uninvited guest. Since then, I've been out here.
Do you mind if we just record your voice?
I see people in here, and I see over there you got a 64-year-old woman. Very nice, not a drug addict, nothing. And the same reason she can't stand shelters. She can't stand what's going on in there.
When you see the situation, you realize that there are so many people who don't have a voice to impact decision makers in this city. But if you could say something, let's say to the mayor or to a city councilor, in terms of helping people who are dealing with homelessness right now, what would you say?
John Tory, I had him in my old camp.
If I told you that we're spending more this year on the shelters than ever before, we're opening hundreds of new shelter beds, would you accept that?
You came inside, you sat down on my couch. Oh, don't worry, we're gonna help you guys, blah, 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 blah. You didn't do nothing. And then a couple weeks later, a SWAT team came in and destroyed my camp. When I came out of my tent, I was ready to slug one of those guys with a wrench. But I dropped it when I saw the automatic weapons. Are you kidding me? A SWAT team for a homeless camp? I really don't think the government's gonna do anything, to tell you the truth. Which level of government that's supposed to be doing this, taking care of us? Or are we expendable?
And we give people a chance to accept an offer of alternate housing. And I think that's the Toronto way to do these things. But we make it clear that while we're offering the housing and most people take that housing, and that allows us to then take down the encampments.
We hear a lot from people saying that the city has taken down encampments.
Yes, but you see, not all encampments are this peaceful. Ours have no problem.
There was some people going around robbing people in their tents. One individual tried that one time in my tent, and he walked into my place. That was a big mistake.
What keeps you going?
My family out here. We're all like family out here.
I have been very lucky to be mixed in a good team. The people here are sticking by each other.
That's why some of us make bigger camps, and a lot of us can hang together, and we feel better, safer, and more all around each other.
For folks who walk through this park, is there anything that they can bring or do that is even a small...
For now on, the neighborhood being extremely generous, and they realize that we are no trouble.
People just think we're all animals and addicts, and we're all nuts. No, we're like people like everybody else.
And know this, we're going to continue reporting on this story because the reality is no one is safe from experiencing homelessness. For Black History Month, we wanted to celebrate everyday Black Canadians who are doing remarkable and inspirational things. especially those in leadership positions. This week, we speak to an inspirational Black woman who is at the forefront of one of the world's most recognizable brands, BG Squad. Meet Lola, who leads Uber Eats Canada. Lola, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. You know, we're in such an important month, and I wanted to start off by asking you, what does Black History Month mean to you?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, so much has happened, I think, over the past year, in so many ways, I think, in all of our lives.
The life of every Canadian was affected this year by the fight against the pandemic.
We've all been living through this global pandemic, which I think has shaken us to our core. But I think it's also been a year where we have really, I think, everyone just come alive and in some ways awakened.
The wave of outrage sweeping across the country after the death of George Floyd under the knee of a white officer.
Racism is real. It's in the United States, but it's also in Canada.
To some of the systematic issues that affect people of color, and in particular Black people.
Yeah, and I want to take a step back and kind of go through your journey and talk about education, because I know that that has been a strong foundation in your life.
Sure. Yeah, I was, I've had a really privileged life and background, particularly when it comes to education. So I grew up in Toronto. I was, born and raised in North York. But I was really privileged to have the opportunity after high school to go to Harvard for my undergraduate degree. And after that, I moved to the UK and did my master's at the London School of Economics, which was fantastic.
Lola, I have to ask you, did you ever get a chance to meet Obama?
Sadly, I did not, but you know what? I feel like it's I feel like it's not too late. I feel like it's not too late. It's still around. We're gonna make it happen at some point. It's gotta happen.
You have worked in so many different places, including in Nigeria for Uber.
For me, it was fascinating, but I think I've always, I've loved to travel. I've loved to learn about different parts of the world. And so I was really excited when I got the opportunity to work first in Liberia, in West Africa, and then for quite a long time in Nigeria.
I think it's so important for our viewers to recognize even the high position that you hold and the fact that you're the general manager for Uber Eats right here in Canada. I would love to know, what advice do you have for young Black women who we hear and we know far too often have to deal with systemic challenges, whether that's pertaining to their hair or the texture of the hair, the tone of their skin? What words of comfort or advice do you have for them?
You can do it. You are exceptional. It doesn't matter what your background is or what you look like. There's nothing, honestly, that I think, internally you should, have as something that's going to hold you back. So I'd say, look for the people who can inspire you, right? Look for the people who you think are exceptional in the field, that you want to be in. They may look like you, they may not look like you, right? But they may be somebody who wants to help you get there. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think there's a lot of people, of course, a lot of ambitious people, and I think Black women especially, who feel the need to kind of, be independent and, prove that you're strong and that you can do things on your own. And that's fantastic, right? Of course, I really value that independence, but I'd say also don't be afraid to ask for help when that help can get you to where you want to go with that next level even faster.
Statistics have shown that Black women as a segment of the population are one of the most educated cohorts in our society. But when you look at the job market in corporations and leadership in these corporations, we're not seeing them in those positions. So what does corporate Canada need to do to change this?
So number one is, I think, making it clear, I think having examples of the fact that there are many Black women, Black people in leadership roles that we actually don't know about. So I'm actually really excited to be talking to you today because I do think representation is important, but I do think it's critical, for companies, Uber, for example, where I work, to be very transparent and clear about where we are in terms of representation throughout the company. So, starting from, entry level up to leadership, where are we and where do we want to go?
As you're talking, I keep hearing Prime Minister Lola. Prime Minister Lola. No, honestly, it sounds good. It sounds good.
Thank you, Brandon. Who knows? But I'm busy enough right now, but who knows?
And I love the fact that you talked about what Uber is doing, because so many people that I've talked with have been trying to figure out what should companies be doing, who should they emulate. And many people have pointed to Uber and that Uber energy that we witnessed, especially during the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that energy surrounding that. So as a Black woman, but as a leader in this company, how did that make you feel?
I mean, it was really, really exciting, because essentially the CEO of our company came out and said very early on that this is the stance, right? That Uber wants to be an anti-racist company. So for example, saying, hey, if you don't believe in the anti-racism, if this isn't something to aspire to, delete the app. And it's really exciting for me that we were able to support Black-owned restaurants in the US and Canada, with, free delivery on their, for their orders for quite some period of time. That kind of thing, that's kind of, I think, not just a statement, but also showing that real support. For me, that was really, really exciting. And then of course, as a Black leader in the company, something I really wanted to make sure that we could get behind.
Are you hopeful for the future that we're gonna start to see those breaking of the barriers?
I am 100% hopeful. It's so clear to me, that, the potential of our youth, Black youth of all different backgrounds, it's just so evident. So I'm extremely hopeful, but I think that some of the events of the past year, the kind of events and the kind of history that we're reflecting on this month are just kind of bringing to the fore the fact that we want to make change and that we want to see things move along even faster. So I'm very hopeful.
Lola, thank you so much for being an inspiration and for being open and honest.
Thank you for having me, Brendan.
That was real inspiration, right? No, really. She could be Prime Minister Lola one day. But I also just want to take a moment to thank Uber Eats Canada for believing in our show and our mission to amplify Black voices and stories. That's what I call a real one. All right, you know what time it is. It's time for good news. All right, I'm so excited about this week's good news because what we really wanted to focus on is about celebrating the small wins in life. Student debt is such a real thing after you complete your education. Well, one guy showed off that moment of what it feels like to finally relieve yourself of all of that stress. Take a look.
Oh my goodness. I think somebody just paid off their student loans for the last time today. Let's go. Here we go, hey, let's go, hey, here we go, hey. 10 years, 3 months, 2 days.
No, that guy has moves, eh? Chris, where are your moves?
Cameraman Chris stiff.
Stiff, he's still stiff, eh? To this day, he's still stiff. My gosh, not okay.
I learned from you.
Woo! Shady team, yo. This is a shady team. All right, we want to thank Jordan for definitely sharing that moment with the world. It made us feel good. Hopefully, one day we'll be able to pay off some people's student loans as the show gets bigger, right? Wouldn't that be amazing? And as we continue to celebrate, we also want to thank you so much for tuning in once again this week. BG Squad, you know what we ask you to do. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, tap that notification bell, follow us on our social medias, and share this video if you really love it, because we love you, and you know we love you for watching. So we see you same place, same time next week. I don't know.